Call the meeting to order for the Black Mountain regular session. It's time I'd like to welcome everyone, and also would you please turn off any telephones, cell phones, beepers. We'll stand now and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing while Pastor Doug Snipes of Homer's Chapel Baptist come and do our invocation.
Let's pray. Our Father, we thank you so much today, first of all, that you care about us like you do, and Lord, that you intervene in the affairs of man, and that you help us in all situations of life. We thank you, Lord, for wisdom that you give us, and we ask just for that tonight as these men and women lead our town. We just ask you for this city and this area that you would give them the wisdom that it takes to make the good decisions that are necessary for us to function as a community. We pray for our community, Lord. You know all the needs that we have here in this town, Lord, all the folks that are suffering, hurting tonight, that have needs. And we pray, Lord, that they would feel your touch and feel your needs. And as we as churches and we as individuals try to reach out to help folks, we pray for your help in that as well. We ask you for our law officers and our firemen tonight as they serve so well and give their time and their effort to keep us safe and to protect us and to help us. We ask your intervention for them as well, to watch over them and guide them and protect them. And Lord, for this meeting, we just ask that your will be done. Help us here to make all the decisions that would make you proud. We ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Be seated, please.
Okay, Wilson, sit down by tomorrow.
Received a copy of the letter which I would like to read. A few months ago, Troop 50 made a request of two of the fire department's members, Mr. Bobby Davis and Mr. John Wilson, to provide a first aid training class. They agreed and on November 5, 2011, served as instructors to those scouts in need of the first aid merit badge. The troop wishes to express its gratitude to Mr. Davis, Mr. Wilson, and to the fire department. The scouts receive top quality training. The instructors, environment, equipment, and program content speak highly of your department and its commitment to the community. The citizens of Swanhoe Valley are fortunate to enjoy public servants of the character demonstrated by those of the Black Mountain Fire Department. Chief in here? Anyway, Chief, congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it. We have a proclamation honoring Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. inspired millions of Americans to participate in nonviolent protests to support the ideals of equality for all, and was a motivating force behind the civil rights movement that had its goal the creation of a society tolerant of all races, cultures, and nationalities. Whereas the ideals of Dr. King and of Black Mountain's commitment to human rights are worthy of reflection and serve as a reminder that improving the quality of life for all members of our community is a responsibility of every citizen. And whereas the celebration of Dr. King's birthday is intended as a time for all Americans to reaffirm their commitment to the basic principles that underlie our Constitution, equality, and justice for all. And whereas the town of Black Mountain encourages all citizens to rededicate themselves to the principles of respect for human rights and freedom, of belief in nonviolence, and of commitment to improving our community through community service and volunteerism. Now therefore, I, Carl Bartlett, Mayor of the town of Black Mountain, on behalf of the Board of Aldermen and citizens of Black Mountain, wish to honor and to hereby proclaim Monday, January 9th, 2012 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. The town of Black Mountain will honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at the 22nd Annual Swanhoe Valley Prayer Breakfast, Saturday, February 4, 2012, hosted by the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Corporation. Each year, scholarships are awarded to local recipients who have applied and made it through the selection process. The challenge that the scholarship posed include critical thinking and compassionate action. We certainly thank that committee. At this time we have citizen comments. The first one is Rick Watson.
I'll be at the last citizen comment.
Teresa Watson.
The last citizen comment also.
Caroline Bell.
Abstain, Leslie.
Nick Cassesi.
Zizzy.
Pizizzi.
I go by Cass, it's a little bit easier to say.
Put 3 minutes. Give us your name and address, please.
It's Nick Kazizzi, 1828 Ridgecrest, and that's 28711. It was brought to my attention that there was a grant that was, I guess, reviewed on the 12th for $750,000. And as I was looking over the criteria and the certifications of this grant, I noticed that it stated that, if I may, it is following a detailed written citizen participation plan which will provide opportunities for citizens' participation, hearings, and access to information with respect to its community development program that are comparable to those required of grantees under Section 104 of the Act, accordance with Rule 1002 of North Carolina Community Development Block Grant Administrative Rules. And I just didn't see where there had been any participation plan with the citizens to look at this grant to make sure that this is really the best way to use it. Further into this certification process, it has or will develop a plan that identifies community development and housing needs, including the needs of low and moderate income persons and the activities to be undertaken to meet such needs. And I'm not opposed to this. It may be very good. I don't know. I just think that there should be a committee like it states here so we could really look over the options and make sure that this is really the best way to spend the money. So I don't know if we can put this back on an agenda so we could take a better look at it, maybe form a committee, have more of the community to participate in the process of looking over this grant and making sure that it is, in fact, benefiting everyone in the community. And I think that's very important that we do have participation from everyone. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Kathy Robertson.
I'd like to wait till the end, please.
Pardon?
The second comments, please.
Buzz Yates.
Thank you, Mayor and Board, for the opportunity to speak tonight. I have a couple of issues that I saw in your consent agenda that I take issue with. One of the items that struck me was the designation of Ron Sneed as the town's attorney, who is Ron Sneed at present, as the custodian of your closed session minutes. I believe that it is in the best interest of our town to have someone who's not that closely connected to the town power, board, mayor, and the other power structure that exists in Black Mountain, to have custody of these minutes and the ability to release or not release them. That is totally separate from the Board of Aldermen. I don't think there's anything wrong with Mr. Steed. I think he's an honorable man, but I think there's just too many close connections, both family and social. Number 2 on my item was item G, I believe, in the consent agenda. someone proposed that we start digging up the town square property. I think it's the town square committee in January or this year in preparation for spring seeding. Now I know I'm just going to read the statement prepared because I'm not that good a speaker, as you all know by now. But item G, directing the destruction of pavement on town parking area at this time is anything but reasonable. It's not the voice of reason. This board has no approved plan for the property, nor has it even adopted a budget to pay for the modifications. Digging up the site without a site plan would be an obvious mistake to anyone with building experience, especially a general contractor. We have one on the board. You don't go in and start digging without a site plan. I just can't imagine doing this. The property was purchased without a planned use or budget, which showed great lack of good fiscal management. Now we're going to do the same with the development. What little use we could have had for this site, you gave away to Christmas tree sales, a good organization, but the whole property allowed to put no parking signs up during the height of our shopping season. I'm really surprised that the merchants of this town didn't really raise hell about it. And if this is good management and a voice of reason, I'm certainly ignorant of both. Don't try and blame this on Marcy, by the way. Number 3 is an issue that the golf course. I have heard articles, I've heard people talking, I've heard members of this board make statements indicating that we should cancel the contract. Should we take back management of the golf course? So let me read something else here. If you try to take back the management of the golf course, you will be showing us how short-sighted and selfish you can be. Recent board statements and articles have said how bad the golf course is being run, how poorly the property is being maintained. All are lies perpetuated by a few who want their power back. This is January. Are any of our lawns prettier now than they were in September? I say let the professionals we hired
3 minutes is
do
up,
their
right?
job as agreed. 3 minutes per item. Thank you.
No, 3 minutes per speaker. And if you want to sign up twice, you can sign up twice.
Read your rules.
Julie White.
Julie White, 205 9th Street. And I'm here because at the agenda meeting, the board decided not to support our RTP grant for a greenway, and I was initially disappointed, and on some levels I still am, but it turned out not to be such a bad thing because I went talking to staff today. We went back and talked to, we listened to your concerns, especially about the paving of Lake Tomahawk, and want to take that out of the grant. And we contacted the State Department or the Department of Parks and Rec to see if we could in fact do that, if we could amend our initial proposal, and they never got it. So that was good to know. We would not have known that if it was not for you guys. Thank you. But we do want to resubmit that proposal, and all we want to do is connect Lake Tomahawk to Highway 70 and the sidewalks through the Craigmont property. So I'm here tonight to ask for your support of that. That grant is due at the end of the month, and we will need your support. I don't know if you want to make, if that would need to be a motion tonight, or if you could do that later, but I think it would be a good project. I don't think, it would not take as much as we originally thought for the whole project, so we have money in the Greenway Commission to help pay for it. A lot of it the match could be done in kind, so I'm asking for your support. We are also going to be submitting a grant for an adopted trail. A grant, that's a $5,000 grant that requires no match. It does not require a resolution on the part of the Board of Aldermen to apply for it, but it would certainly make our grant proposal stronger. So I'm asking for either a proposal or a letter of support from you all on that. That grant will be asking for money for signage. We would like to do some wayfaring signs along the Greenway and to make some more brochures, to revise and print more brochures. Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth Brandon. Elaine Lutzenheiser.
It's Lotzenheiser, and I'll wait too.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. First item is the adoption of minutes for the sessions on 12/12. Next is proposal to adopt resolution R-1201 to call subdivision of development bonds for completion of infrastructure and settings. Number C, proposal to adopt resolution designate agent for open and closed session minutes, which would be the town attorney. D, North Carolina Fireman's Relief Fund Board appointment, which would be Sterling Poe. Municipal bridge inspection agreement between the town and the North Carolina DOT, and that is the town project to authorize the town of Black Mountain's department to excavate and remove gravel and cement areas on the Monterey State side of the town square property in preparation for seeding in early spring. Next is stop sign at Richardson and Sutton. Make that a multi-stop, a full right of way. Is there a motion that we approve consent items as presented?
So moved.
In discussion.
Yeah, I want to, on the minutes, page 7 of the minutes for the December board meeting of December the 12th. Then there Alderman Showers' comments, and he asked if the owner of Smith Turf and Irrigation is a resident of Black Mountain and a member of the golf course. Does he own that, or does he work for Smith Irrigation? I thought he worked for Smith Irrigation.
He works for them, and also I said that I thought he was a resident of Black Mountain and a member of the golf course. I found out he is not a member of the golf course nor the Men's Golf Association.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, if we could make those
corrections.
make those corrections, please.
You can't change what was stated.
Okay.
Tonight's minutes will reflect
Well,
that factual
tonight's
change.
minutes, okay. Any other?
I had a correction, I believe, it's on December 28 minutes of the closed session. Has that been
What page is that on? What page is that on?
Yeah, those aren't there.
But has that been, but I called to your attention, Mr. Richardson? That's
Yes,
been
sir.
taken care of.
Yes, that's incorrect.
Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Communications from boards, commissions, and outside agencies. Ames Crown, report on the planning board.
Mr. Mayor, Board of Aldermen, fellow citizens, I'm here to give the annual report for the Town of Black Mountain Planning Board, if I can find it. Here it is. And this report covers the period between January 1st, 2011 and December 31st, 2011. The date submitted is today. The members of the board, for those of you who don't know, myself as chairman, Buzz Yateman, who spoke earlier, as vice chairman. I don't know if anybody else in this group's here. John Roundtree, Jesse Gardner, Pam Norton, Michael Raines, and Ryan Stone. These are members of our board. I apologize too not for getting this report to you well in advance, but I was up against a time crunch there, having to go through all the minutes for the whole year, trying to pull them together. And if you want to read all the details, just go up to the minutes of the board and you'll see them there. So I pulled together this report, which I think pretty much covers what we did. And just to kind of focus on what does the town planning board do, maybe some people don't know. So I thought I'd just kind of review that as part of my report, which we did last year as well. The town planning board is an appointed advisory committee to the Board of Aldermen, and we work on general land use and planning issues. Deliberations of the planning board are guided by two operational documents. And some of you may or may not be familiar with these documents. We have a comprehensive town plan. This plan was adopted in 2004. And we have our favorite, the Land Use Code. And I'm not sure how many people have actually read the Land Use Code. The planning board members, I think, have, but not too many. I think Joe Tyson read the entire Land Use Code, I do believe. And maybe somebody else did, I'm not sure. But anyway, those are the documents that guide our operations. So as set forth in the Land Use Code, we perform the following tasks. We are basically an advisory and comment board on text or zoning amendments, and we provide written recommendations to the Board of Aldermen how amendments consistent with the comprehensive plan and adopted plans. We recommend amendments to the comprehensive plan, and I'll discuss that in a minute because the comprehensive plan probably needs to be revisited. It's already, I don't know how many years old, but 2004 is quite some time ago. We approve preliminary plats for major subdivisions. This has not been a very active area in the last year, as many of you know. We recommend to the Zoning Board of Adjustment final plats for major subdivisions. We recommend to the Zoning Board of Adjustment or Board of Aldermen special use permit projects and permit applications, including cottage housing developments, manufactured home parks, planned unit developments, industrial park development, and downtown development. We haven't been up front in some of these areas. I'll mention that in a minute. We advise and comment on right-of-way closures or acceptance petitions and provide written recommendations as such to you. And we carry out additional duties, and these additional duties seem to be cropping up more frequently in the last year. But we are, as we say, an advisory board to you and at your discretion and follow your lead. The Planning Board meets on the fourth Monday of each month at 7 p.m. in this room to conduct its business. We also have special meetings as the need arises. While meetings follow the general rules of conduct, we have adopted a strategy for encouraging public input into the process by allowing public comment on issues as the meeting progresses. In a sense, the Planning Board is a monthly forum to discuss planning and land use issues for our community. During the past year, we have been busy in spite of the fact that there haven't been developments or other things coming our way. And one of the things we did this last year, a major undertaking, was realizing that the Land Use Code is a work in progress. The code was adopted with the understanding that changes would have to be made to refine the code as it's put into practice. In order to address this issue, the Planning Board adopted a formal process for reviewing possible text amendments to the Land Use Code. As a result, we identified 20 additions or amendments that needed to be made. Text amendments were given to the Board of Aldermen and presented as Ordinance 01101 to amend the Land Use Code and the Code of Ordinance of the Town of Black Mountain. The Board of Aldermen subsequently approved this ordinance on May 6, 2011. The changes that were made expanded the permitted use table to assist the burgeoning brew pub industry and make restaurants more flexible in serving their clientele. 3 amendments refined the definition and permitted use tables for facilities that serve the elderly and disabled in our community, and we're going to refine that a little bit more in the future. The changes included amendments to control wood and yard waste facilities to achieve more effective regulation of commercial signage, to sharpen the definition of accessory buildings to more clearly regulate parking and special use facilities, and to make the permitting process more cost effective. Finally, amendments were developed to encourage commercial enterprises and building projects to use more effective screening methods to protect our valuable view shed. Although the text amendment process was our major effort, we were able to hear about the planning and use concerns of our local business leaders and residents and to respond to requests from this board, the Board of Aldermen. We worked on several issues, including how to better define and permit home occupations, the non-conforming use of structures and buildings, and even issues related to snow removal. Planning Board was assigned the responsibility of reviewing the issue of abandoned, nuisance, and junk vehicles, as defined in Chapter 90 of the General Statutes and Regulations of the town. Finally, the Planning Board began the process of working with the Town Square Steering Committee and Historic Preservation Commission to guide the development of this important property. Planning Board is on track to fulfill its obligations as a major forum for the continued development and preservation of our community. During the next calendar year, we intend to continue hearing concerns of our residents and businesses as they relate to the land use code and the general town development. In this regard, we envision two major efforts. To continue responding to requests of the Board of Aldermen to examine issues pertaining to long-range development of Black Mountain as a viable location for living, tourism, and commerce, and to revisit our outdated comprehensive plan to prepare a contemporary revision that fits the times and helps us make more appropriate and informed decisions. That's my report, Mr. Mayor. Wood? Are there any questions? I'd be glad to answer them.
I know we appreciate the work of you and
They're a fine group.
Thank you for all the time that all the board puts in.
Pardon me?
Said thank you for the amount of time that you and the board members put in.
Thank you very much. They're all hardworking and dedicated citizens.
My hat is off to you guys because I know how hard you work and how diligent you are, and I think this planning board is probably the best we've ever had.
Well, thanks so much.
Absolutely.
you're speaking from experience too, aren't you, Don?
Yes, sir.
Marilyn Sabaski.
Good evening, everyone. I have come up to this podium before in the past to announce particular special events that we were hosting. I represent Rainbow Recycling. And today I come to share with you the outcome of some of those events and to announce an upcoming one. We started a brand new program of rotating quarterly hard-to-recycle collections. These help people recycle items that are not accepted curbside, and some of them, like TVs and computers, that are illegal by state law to put in the landfill. So on October 22nd, we had our very first one. We started in the eastern part of the county. We had it at the Ingalls at Swannanoa. And it was a very good start to this program. Not only did we have things recycled by 2 businesses, we also had we were able to help 6 nonprofits, institutions, or groups who could use those materials as reuse or in their special recycling fundraising. And there were 4 businesses that helped us with recycling or reuse. We have a similar event coming up this Saturday, 11 to 3, at the Kmart on Hendersonville Road. So now we're rotating to South Buncombe, and in the next quarter we'll rotate to West Buncombe and then back to East Buncombe. On December 31st, we had our Black Mountain Holiday Styrofoam and Packaging Recycling event. It was our 4th annual, and it was a huge success. In fact, we were packed to the gills with the material that we had. And very fortunately, and really almost like a miracle to witness, all the bags of peanuts and all the bags of bubble wrap all disappeared. They all went to people who could reuse them. So that was really exciting, and it also made it possible for us to drive our vehicles home because they weren't packed from floor to ceiling. But really, it's a lot more fun to see this than just to hear about it. So we have a 3-minute video for you to watch, and you'll get a flavor for what we've done and are going to continue to do.
I've saved up for 2 or 3 years, and it is just wonderful to know that there's some place to put them that they can be reused again instead of tossed out and messing up a landfill somewhere. Really glad.
This is getting ready your TV day.
makes things so much easier. Nobody ever knows where to recycle these things, and then when you have a big event like this, it sure helps.
Good morning, folks. Well, thank you.
Oh, we have odds and ends.
And let me just share with you what we are collecting on Saturday. We're collecting styrofoam and packaging, rigid plastics, hardback books, old ones, you know, poor condition or outdated, electronics, discs, tapes, cartridges, batteries, rechargeable and single-use, small appliances, cooking oil for the very first time. That'll be made into biodiesel by Blue Ridge Biofuels. Unusable clothing and fabric, eyeglasses, and plastic gift cards. Our co-sponsors are Asheville GreenWorks and Curbside Management, which is our recycling facility, and E-cycleUs, and they helped make the event possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. We appreciate your efforts, too. Item C, financial statement, auditor's report. Phil Church and Rick Hammer.
Mayor, Alderman, appreciate the opportunity to be with you again this year to review your June 30th, 2011 financial statements and make some brief comments regarding it. Rick Hammer is with me. He's the audit manager on the engagement. As we go through it, if you have any questions, stop us. We'll be glad to try to answer it. Of course, we handed out highlights, which we'll be reviewing with you. This report is about 90 pages long, so we won't be take hours to go through that with you. But later, if you have questions, get in touch with us. We'll be glad to try to answer it for you. And I'll just make a couple of brief comments before I turn it over to Rick. We did give you a clean, unqualified opinion. Of course, that's what you need to have to go to the Local Government Commission. The Local Government Commission has reviewed this report and approved it. Of course, that's always important. We did do an A-133 compliance audit on the state funds that you received and had no issues with any of those, no findings or issues with any of those state funds that came through. I guess you'll notice also that you have a different looking report this year. It's called a CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, which is a little more detailed and a little higher standard report, and that report at some point will be going to, I guess, Dean will be going to the GFOA for their approval, and they'll give you comments back, but this is your first year to attempt that, so it's a good step forward. You also have in your information, and I don't know if you've had an opportunity to read it, a letter that's called a SAS 114 letter that we're required to communicate to those in governance, of course, which is your board here, if we had any disagreements with management or any significant findings, and I'm glad to report we had no disagreements with management. They worked well with us. Everything went very well during the audit. So I'll turn it over to Rick. If you have any questions, stop us. We'll try to answer those for you, okay?
Yeah, I think everyone has a two-page highlight sheet that we sort of go over every year. You can see it's 3 columns. There's a 2011, which is your June 30, 11 numbers. Then there's a 2010 column and a change column, just to give you some comparison to increases and decreases from the prior year. The top part is the general fund. That's your main operating account of the town. You can see at June 30th, you had cash and investments of $2,552,894 and total assets of just under $3.5 million. The total fund balance for the town in the general fund at the end of June 30 was $3,218,736. And of that, $1.9 million was undesignated fund balance. You had total revenues for the year of $6,955,975 and total expenditures of just over $7 million. And some other income and expenses, they netted out to a positive amount of $155,000. So you increased your fund balance for the year ending June 30th by $62,194. You also collected, which was included in revenue, you collected $3,448,701 of your current year tax levy, and that was 98.7% of your total levy. The next section is the water fund. This is the water and sewer fund monies. Cash and investments there at June 30, $1,644,685, and you had total assets, including all of your buildings, equipment, land, $7,640,707. Your equity or your net assets in that fund was just under $5.3 million. Most of that is invested for fixed assets of $3.5 million, but you have unrestricted net assets of $1,716,540. Your operating revenue was $1.2 million, $1,283, and you had operating expenses of $1,253,000. So you had an operating income for the year of just over $30,000. You had some non-operating expenses and some transfers out there. You can see $46,000 in non-operating expenses and transfers out to other funds of about $112,000. So you ended up about a $20,000 decrease in your net assets for the year ending June 30. And that last number there, just to give you an idea where your accounts receivable was, it was $338,609 at the end of June. On the second page, we've got the golf course fund. Cash and investments there was $114,516, and you had total assets of just over $790,000. Again, that includes all the fixed assets, the property, equipment, and such. Total net assets $632,569. You had about $492,000 in operating revenue and $650,000 in operating expenses. And you had some transfers in of about $205,000 during the year. So all in all, you increased your net assets in the golf fund $49,488. And the last two numbers on this page are the GASB 34, the full accrual numbers for the town. This includes all the funds of the town at the end of June. Cash and investments, you can see, was $4,312,095, and your net assets for the town, all the assets, your assets minus liabilities, you had net assets of $14,695,234. Were there any questions on anything or anything in the report?
One thing that really helped was, I know you guys were scheduled, I believe, for December, and something conflict, you couldn't be here. But you got this report to us, which I think really helped for us to be able to study it for 30 days.
Right.
We asked Dean questions, and I think the entire board did. So it really helps you think about that next year. Do the same thing would be great.
If questions come up later, and we get in touch with us, we'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
Okay. Actually, I've got a question right now. On page 14 of that report that you gave us. down about 3/4 of the way down, you've got professional development of $198,748. I was talking with Dean right after the election and asked him to provide us and the board with certain information as to the bank accounts and monies owed. And make a long story short, there was an item in there that was health insurance of $311,000 that has been showing up in previous reports as a liability. Is that correct?
Yes.
And now it has been shown as equity. Would y'all like to expound upon that?
Yeah, in part, when you all were self-insured some years back, there was a liability set up for insurance claims. When you became part of the state plan, there was money still shown as a liability that sat out there for a couple of years to make sure there weren't any claims that were going to be made against that. Now, this year when Dean and I talked, he decided that there aren't going to be any claims against that, so we should bring it into revenue. So that's what we did. We brought it in as income, took it off as liability. Now, where it shows up here as professional development, it was my understanding that the town manager wanted to reserve that, or we showed as assigned because the board never approved or never voted to do that, but we showed as assigned for professional development. At any time the board wants to change that or unassign it or whatever, that can be done. That can be shown as unreserved or unassigned fund balance and used for the general fund.
But tell me if I'm making a correct statement or not. Basically, we've got a $311,000 liability that is now in reverse an asset.
No, what's happened in the past, that $311,000 was deducted as expenses, okay? Based on the estimates.
Right.
So when you get it off of the balance sheet, it goes either a reduction of an expense where it went to originally, or revenue, same effect. The 311 crossed three funds.
Right, that was all.
198 was this fund,
Right.
about 85 was the water and sewer fund, 3,000 or so, 3 or
No,
4,000.
37,000 was in the golf fund.
Yeah, 37,000 was the golf fund, so it went back to where it was originally deducted as an expense, and that's why it ended up in equity.
Okay, I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, and like I said, this money is unrestricted and unreserved. The board can do whatever they
Yes,
like
sir.
with it.
That's my understanding.
Yes.
One other question. On page 76.
Mr. Luby might have to help us with this one. That's on the statistical information that's considered unaudited information.
Right, okay. I know that we have a number that's in there that is supposedly assets, and what they are bills receivable, so to speak. And Dean, you and I have talked about that, and I thought it was on 76, but it may not be. It doesn't look like it is. It's like $130-some thousand, and of that, part of that is monies that probably needs to be looked at.
I think you're talking about the water receivable.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And I think the allowance, I think the town needs to examine how we're calculating the allowance on receivables, because I found a aging schedule for those receivables pretty late in the audit. If I found it earlier, we would have corrected it this year.
Right.
But more or less of that approximate $30,000 in water receivables, there's a significant portion that is quite old. And when receivables age, what we should probably be doing is reducing them, because if you owe me $20 today, there's a good chance you're going to pay me. If that debt is a year old, there's a lot slimmer chance that you're going to pay me that money. And we'll be correcting that in this year.
Most entities that we go to, you see about, and I'm not sure how this will calculate, a little over a cycle sitting there 35 to 40 days.
Yeah, I think that'd be about accurate. Yeah.
That's what you usually see. And I don't know what this computes to, but I would say that's about what you...
I would guess it's going to be it'll be close to a six-figure number of an allowance for receivable, for bad debt, more or less. I mean, some of these debts are 5 years old. I mean, none of them are huge debts, but they're $100 here, $100 there, that the town historically has not really accounted for properly. And I noticed it late in the cycle this year, otherwise Rick and I would have fixed it this year, but it was kind of too late to do it.
All right, so between now and the next report, we'll have that tweaked and more up to date.
And then that receivable number that you see in the statements will be it'll be much more accurate number to what receivables truly are.
Okay.
A couple of questions. One on page 37. It's talking about the sewer line extensions, talking about spent to date and then remaining commitment. There's 196,588. And I'm questioning that in relation to the amount of money that we owe on that particular loan.
Yeah, the debt we're going to owe on that, see, this is a tricky one, because at year end, we only owed $800,000 on that debt. That's how much we had been reimbursed on that grant. That contract, the remaining commitment is just I forget who's the contractors, it might be JLS.
T&K, I believe.
T&K, okay. We had put out a purchase order or a contract for all three of the sewer line extensions. And at June 30th now, there was, what page you say that was?
37.
There was just under $200,000 left on that contract as of June 30th. Okay, if that makes
So now that's already been, I mean, that's already cycled through and...
As of right now, yeah, that job is done right now. Yeah, so there's no more expenses hitting the books on that. And it made the accounting kind of tricky for Rick and I, because by the time we were talking, the job was done, but I had to look back at June 30th about what we had been reimbursed and what we had spent.
Okay, good, thanks. Page 17, just as an education for me, I don't quite understand this, so if you could help me out on some of this when you talk about the government funds, governmental funds, and of course the issuance of long-term debt, current financial resources to governmental funds. Can you give a little quick scenario on what that really says?
There's two different types of reports in here. One's the modified accrual basis, which is kind of cash in, cash out. And then there's a GASB 34, which is a full accrual basis of accounting like a business would do. You put all the assets are capitalized and depreciated. You put payables on the books, debt on the books. But under GS 159 for the state of North Carolina, you approve your budgets based on the modified accrual basis. So if you go buy a fire truck, you expense it. Okay? But on the GASB 34 full accrual, that's getting it reconciled back to a full accrual basis, going from modified to full, like a business would do, and then start depreciating those assets. That's what that's all about. That's what those reconciliations are.
All right, then if we go over to page 8, because I'm assuming that figure where it says government activities, 567,091 is the same as what was on 17.
Yes, it is.
And
Should
so
be.
that now you're breaking it down even further. And so could you define what that 200,000 is the reclassification of the liability that Don was talking about earlier?
Now, which page are you looking at?
We're on page 8.
On page 8.
Yeah, 200,000 in the notes you're talking about, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Talking
yeah,
about, yeah.
Yeah, that 200,000 is exactly that. It made the general fund look a lot better than,
Just to be, since you guys are accountants and you deal in
that's
pennies and
200.
cents.
Yep, you know, all your debt goes back on the books on the gas.
Why is that figure different from 198,748? I mean, it's only $1,000, I realize, but.
You make a good point. I'm responsible for that note, and some people approximate the numbers, and I probably, if I could do it over again, I would put the exact number. But it's the 198,000.
Okay, all right, good, thanks. So that went back into revenues for last year?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is fairly confusing when you start talking about two different types of financial statements in a, modified accrual and full accrual. So it is kind of hard to follow sometimes. And we're accountants.
Without that, your fund balance would be about amounts to 150, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we talked about it being quite a bit less than that, and the only reason it even was there was we had some great tax revenue late in the year. That utility tax that we talked about a couple meetings ago was about $60,000 higher than it normally was. So there was some good news late in the year.
Okay. Any other questions?
May I make a comment? Can everybody hear me in the back? I know there was some problem last time. I want to commend Dean especially and you guys on this report. I liken this to reading your Bible. You can't read it just one time. You got to read it over and over and over. But thank you very much.
We appreciate the opportunity to work with
So motion to accept the report?
So move.
Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. New business, Al?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first thing I'd like to talk about, if I may, and this is an item that one of the ladies talked about under citizen comments. And in the agenda meeting, as you remember, the board voted not to do the repairs to the walking trail that we talked about. And what she brought forward, Casey Connor brought this to me right before the meeting tonight and asked me if he thought the board might be interested in subbing this one for the other one that we talked about. And this is the one that she talked about, and it was, or it is, a 978 lineal foot walking trail from the VFW on Craigmont Road, coming around the tennis courts and on around to by the Mexican restaurant, which gets you back around to the sidewalk, Craigmont Road and Highway 70. I think this sounds to me like it would be a good project. We are under, and that's the reason that I'm sure she mentioned it tonight, and that's the reason I bring it to you. We're under a time crunch. If we're going to do anything, they will take a pre-app from us if we choose to do it. We are under time crunch because these apps have to be in by January 30th. So it's something that we'd have to deal with tonight. Now, the match, this is a $33,000 total grant, and I believe our amount on that is, I believe it's $8,250. So I think it's a good project. I bring that to you tonight for your consideration. I know that's a little bit a little bit odd because it's not an agenda item, but we did have an item on the consent agenda that we marked out. And we could go with this in place of that other one if you so choose.
I think it's a great idea. You know, I'm glad that we were able to go ahead and agree that because I know there's so many people that do not want to have the trail around Lake Tomahawk paved. And that was the reason why we were against this grant. It wasn't we were against extending the greenways, but we certainly did not want to go ahead and pave around Lake Tomahawk. And now that this has transpired the way it has, I would like to make a motion that we accept this a proposal and let you move forward with applying for the would you say $33,000 grant to the to the recreational trails program 2012 pre-app.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion?
Al, do we have the $8,000 that we could match for our part?
Yes, I feel sure we do because we were moving forward with the other one, which was going to require more money than this one.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, the other item that I have, this is a personnel update for the board, and this one is, I know, has had a lot of discussion. I'm asking for 2 positions tonight. I'm asking for position number 1 to be approved, to be a recommendation for an officer for downtown patrol. Now, I did state at the agenda meeting, I don't know whether the board has read your emails today, but I did state that I would advertise this position, and that was a big mistake on my part after thinking through it. We have a person that was laid off in that position because of lack of funding. And I think it'd be very, very wrong for me to go out and advertise that position when we've got a person laid off. We now have the funds to fund it if the board chooses to do that. But we've got the money to do it, and I think that, as I said to you in the email today, I think that the person that was laid off for no reason of their own whatsoever should have first right of refusal if the board chooses to fund this position.
Is there a motion to approve recommendation for an officer for downtown patrol as other duties to be determined by the manager and interim police chief?
Second motion.
Any discussion?
I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I don't think it's without a doubt, like Mr. Richardson says, that this is something that's been coming down the pipe since June or July when this action was first taken. It was not a very popular action that this board took, the ones that voted in the affirmative. Not only was this gentleman's position eliminated, done away with, but so was another position in Parks and Recreation. And were several other positions that were ripped, reduction in force. At that time, I made it perfectly clear that myself, being a person who had been ripped from a position, was very sympathetic to the employees that we lost. I remain very sympathetic to them and what they and their families have undergone. I feel very strongly that if this position is to be refunded, there should be every effort made to get those people back on payroll also. This is a new position. It's not an old position. That old position was just that old, eliminated, terminated, done away with. It's a totally new position that if you even look at it, it says as well as other duties to be determined by the mayor and interim police chief.
Excuse me, it's not mayor.
Ma'am, excuse me, I'm sorry, manager, in word. But I asked the acting chief for a description. Would there be a written description of the position? And I was told yes, and I have yet to see that, what the additional duties would be. I think that would be very important to see, for this group to see exactly what else was going to be required of this person. under RIF procedures, you have to be a full-time employee with benefits. This is a part-time 20-hour-a-week position with no benefits. I conferred with our human resources person, and you know, there's nothing in the town's policy, personnel policy, that even address this type of situation. I feel it's very hesitant. I think it would be a very bad move on our part to seek rehiring this person, given our financial situation. I mean, I've heard that, you know, the money is there, but nobody's shown where the money is coming from to fund this position. We have police officers that are covering the downtown district right now. Since this has happened, since staff has been laid off, nothing's happened downtown. This continues to be patrolled. I mean, in my neighborhood, I could sit here and build a case that I need a patrol officer in my neighborhood. Since January of last year, we've had numerous break-ins in homes, automobiles, people's storage sheds. Our crime rate in our neighborhood has gone up substantially. I haven't heard of a lot of robberies or break-ins or anything downtown. I mean, I may be mistaken, but I don't think I have. So I hesitate also to look at this from a political standpoint, because I don't want to believe this is a political move. I know Johnny. I've known Johnny a long time, and I feel very strongly about his dedication and his love for his town. But I also, like I said earlier, I know that some folks lost their jobs, that if we're going to make this effort, put this gentleman back to work, we need to do everything we can to bring those other people back to work too.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I do. I agree with Carlos 100% as far as not making this political. It seems, though, that there has been a lot of extra attention put on this one part-time position, which surprises me and baffles me why there is so much resistance. We've got an individual who is making $12,000 a year, and when the discussion started as far as the possibility of trying to bring him back, we got a letter that was signed by the Chamber of Commerce. We got a letter that was signed by Business to Business. And since that time, I've went down, I've talked to a lot of the businesses in town, walked the streets and talked to folks. And one of the things that concerns me is that it seems to be that there have been discussions made about boycotting their businesses just because they were in support of us putting that person back to work. One of the things that we talked about during the campaign was Black Mountain's bitterness. We don't need this kind of bitterness and challenges in this town. And talks of boycotting businesses, letters being left on the doors of businesses is just, it's not good, guys. And that's all I want to say about it.
Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? 4-1. Mr. Showers in the minority.
Item 2, Mr. Mayor, I'm asking, and this is more of a selfish nature probably on my part, to approve a temporary part-time assistant for the administrative department, and this is basically for me, interim manager. And when we first talked about the possibility of me coming back, I told you that I probably was not physically able to work full-time. No secrets there. And what I'm proposing here, and well, number one, that hasn't worked out very good so far. That kind of goes without saying. There's been an awful lot of 8-hour days versus 4 or 5-hour days. What I'm after is a temporary part-time position that can come in and immediately help me do some things. It doesn't have anything to do with any of our present staff, not anything whatsoever. But same story on this one. I initially said at the agenda meeting, I said, yeah, we'll advertise. Then, after much discussion with our HR person, like positions, we haven't, it hasn't been really, I won't say policy, that's probably not the right word, but it's not been procedure. My position, for example, interim town manager, we didn't advertise, as I understand it, we didn't advertise for that. Or when Betsy Watson come on when Sherry Williams retired, that wasn't advertised, and I don't think it should have been. We're looking for a specific person that can come in and help from day one, that's got the experience. Same story, I think when Mark Combs come, I don't believe that was an advertised deal, so it's been pretty much tradition that positions like that we don't. So I won't be advertising that, but I am asking for help in the administration department 20-25 hours a week. So I bring that to you as item 2.
Motion to approve a temporary part-time assistant administrative department. With that, you'll have to have some budget amendment for next month.
Yes, and I will do that, and we have the money to cover this. In fact, this should, as we know, this should save the town some money.
I'll make that motion, and in making that motion, I just want to say, Al, you're the manager. You do what you got to do in order to make this operation run, and I know you'll do that.
Any other discussion?
I'd like to reiterate what Tim's just saying. It even kind of surprises me why you're even bringing this to this board's attention. I mean, as town manager, you have the authority to hire and fire whoever you wish at any given time. So you really don't need this board's say-so for either one of these acts here. But let me finish.
Go ahead.
I'm sympathetic with you and your health concerns, and I'm very concerned about that. And it did just kind of take me by surprise that a gentleman, as you told us the other day in the agenda meeting, that you had just had a medical procedure a couple of weeks ago. And with this position, what exactly would be the duties of the position? Has a job description been established? What is this person going to do?
Okay,
you say as an assistant.
This is going to be temporary, as I said. Probably during the time I'm here, if you keep them on after we hire the permanent, you guys hire the permanent manager, fine. However you do that. No, I haven't worked up a job description, but it's going to be assistance to me. And I'm seeing a lot of things, a lot of places that this person can be used. For example, in planning, we have periods of time, not much, but we're pretty thin staffed in planning. We have periods of time when 2 of the folk, we got 3 people, 2 of them are out making inspections, and the other goes to lunch. We have to put a sign on the door. And we'd utilize this person in things like that. But anything that I'll be doing, she would be assisting me, and that's pretty much it. And being utilized in any other, I see her as being help to everyone in the office at City Hall, not just me, but I think it'll help us streamline things.
Why not contracting with the temp service?
Because and I stated that to start with, you've got to have someone that knows the operation, just like when you guys hired me, although I'd been retired a long time, but I'm pretty familiar with the operation of the town of White Mountain. I was manager for a while. And So I need someone, I'm going to be here a limited amount of time, as you know. We're going to get a permanent manager on board as quickly as we can. I think that's very important. So if it's someone that there's a learning curve, that's not going to be a lot of help to me. So it's got to be someone pretty familiar.
Can you clarify, if I can, what you referred to in the financial person, I think his name is Betsy?
Mm-hmm.
Betsy and with Mark, both of those positions were contractual positions, if I'm correct? Correct.
Probably so, and this certainly can be too. This can be payroll or contracting. I'm not hung up one way or the other on that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yes, Al, the 20 hours or so that you're going to be working, and then this other person that you bring on board and they're working 20 to 25 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's going to be considerably a lot less than what we were paying the town manager and what's in the budget for that.
That's correct. That's correct.
So basically, we're going to be saving money until we rehire a full-time manager, even with the two of y'all working that same job.
Right, right. And I'm figuring, for budgetary purposes, I'm figuring both positions at 25 hours a week.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Communication from staff, town manager.
Okay, I continue to be on the hot seat. No, I'm kidding. Folks, it's good to be back. And I know it's going to be a brief period, as I talked about, but it is good to be back to see old friends and make new acquaintances. And one of the main things I want to talk about tonight, I want to thank our department directors and all of our staff for the good job that they're doing and how well I've been received. I've been gone for a long time, and how well I've been received, and it's not easy to get up to speed, and I'm a long way from being up to speed, but with all the projects that we've got going on, but everyone has been just absolutely great in each and every department that we've got. Folks, I say that to say you've got great staff here at the town of Black Mountain, and I'm most appreciative to them for how well that I've been received. The other thing one thing I want to talk about, and I'm excited to talk about this item. This is something that's been kind of kicked around for a pretty good while, but this has to do with our water system. And I run across this, and it's something that's been talked about for a pretty good while, but I don't know, I guess it just, with changes, it got kind of on the back burner, kind of got pushed to the back. But this has to do with the folks that live Carolina Heights area up that way on the left side of Montreat Road, that in the higher elevations that don't have adequate water pressure. This is kind of near and dear to my heart. There was a day when I was here that our Hemp Hill Road, the big water tank, the 1.2 million gallon tank, is at an elevation of 2,300 feet. And it wasn't an item that we could address at all because it was a height issue. Well, it ceased to be a height issue now because we've got on Black Mountain Estates, the town has since put in the tank, and it's at about 3,100 feet elevation, I'm told. And I believe, and the people that know a lot more than I do believe, that will be, with the right configuration, it's not a height problem, as I said, and with the right configuration of working valves and the things that need to be done, that we'll be able to serve these people with adequate water pressure. So what I've asked for is a proposal, and this is from Jess Gardner, to give us a quote on what it would cost to do the engineering work to make sure that this is a project that can be done. I certainly believe it. I believe it is. Now, we do have money budgeted, but I wanted to bring it to your attention tonight that this project, unless you tell me no, this project's on go. We're going to move on it as quickly as we can. We got a proposal, $4,850 from Jess Gardner. That's a worst case scenario to do the engineering work to make sure that it can be done, that it's feasible, can be done. And I believe, as I said, I believe it can. And unless you tell me no go, we'll move ASAP and get this in the works.
We've had complaints on that pressure for the last 35, 40 years. That'd be great.
Good deal, good deal. Okay, the last thing I want to introduce to you, it needs no introduction, but our interim Chief of Police, Steve Padgett. I know Steve's here. I just want to say a word and then I'll turn it to Steve. And I know in a lot of people's minds, oh, Al's been on the job 2.5 weeks, and he's appointing an interim police chief. Now, how in the world is he going to do that? How does he know? Well, and I guess Mark at the newspaper, we kind of talked, and he asked this question, and very easily for 3 reasons. Number one, former Chief Kevin Presley's recommendation to me. I also had the good fortune of working with Steve for 9 years plus, before I retired. And last and not least, he has done this job in the past very, very successfully. Steve, we're glad to have you. And I thank you very much for accepting the position.
Thank you. It's an honor to be able to serve in this capacity again for the second time. And I look forward. We have a great department, and we are going to continue providing the same level of service, if not more better, through professionalism and training. So I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Town Attorney.
Back to the broken record on the lawsuit over the tennis courts. Mr. Spockman, the agent and president of the company, managed to dodge Henderson County Sheriff till they gave up and returned the summons. And that by law, I can now send a private investigator out to pull one of those tricks you see on television to get him served. Maybe we'll get this thing moving on. That's all.
Town Hardware Stormwater Project, Chairman Matthews, our interim public service director.
Evening, Mayor, Board. Just a quick update. Our last quarterly report, we had planned on replacing the stormwater system behind Town Hardware that has collapsed. It adjoins town property. Part of it's actually on private property, so we partnered with private property owners who was very generous in giving funds for the material. We would provide the labor and the service to have it fixed. After assessing it further, we realized that our storm drain on the town side has collapsed also. So we plan on repairing it while we're in there. I guess just want to make everybody aware, and property owners and the merchants in that area, that we'll go ahead and apologize for the inconvenience, but we're going to try the Tuesday after the holiday, this coming Tuesday, to start working on that project. We actually got all the materials in today, and we're going to try to start on that and get that done as quick as possible, because we don't want to have any inconvenience. That was part of waiting until after the holidays. We're looking at maybe 4 to 5 days. All the underground utilities have been located. We got gas, phone. The good thing, we don't have much water, but there is a running creek in that pipe, so I think we've figured out how to deal with it. So we'll try to be in and out as quick as we can and do the best job we can, and we appreciate the funds, and we'll try to get it done as quick as we can. So, do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Yes, Jamie, when are you going to start this project?
It'll be Tuesday after the holiday, this coming Tuesday after Martin Luther King holiday. We're going to try to start, weather permitting. If we get hard rains and stuff, we may have to hold off, because what happens if you get the pipe in, you can't keep it stable because it'll try to float up out of the hole. So if we can keep it dry, then we can get it in. So we're looking, I hope, stretching it maybe a week, but I hope sooner than that we can get it in. I'd like to thank Pam too. She printed out flyers today, so we should get them flyers out to everybody by Friday. That way it won't be no surprises.
So do you see any kind of any possibility that this is going to last through March 15th, which is basically the start date that we were talking about, trying to do some green space on the town square?
I hope not. I hope we can have it done within a week, weather permitting. You know, I don't like to leave the hole open if we can because of safety precautions. So if all goes well, a week the most. I'm hoping 4 days that we can be in and out. So it's a big project, but we got good guys. They know what they're doing, and I think we can get it done. But we should be done way before March. So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Board of Aldermen, have any comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, I'd like to, Marilyn had asked for a letter of support, and I would just want, is Marilyn still here?
Yeah.
Marilyn, give the information that you need on that, because I want to make a motion. You said you needed a letter of support. You were going to apply for a second grant.
That's me.
I'm sorry, Julie. Julie.
Yeah, the letter of support would just be to support the adopted trail grant that the recreation Parks and Rec will be applied for.
Okay. I mean, is this board comfortable with just agreeing to let Julie get with Darlene to draw this up?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Good.
Anyone else?
I did. Last month at this meeting, a vote was taken to rescind the sanitation fee, the $6 a month sanitation fee. And I was wondering, where have we found the money to plug the gap in that, or have we yet now?
Dean and I have talked about that. We have not. It's kind of been wild and crazy, as you would know from me, at City Hall these 3 weeks. But Dean and I have talked about that. He said we're fine shape. We haven't identified, we haven't talked about specific, but he said, yeah, there's places we're going to be fine. There's places that we can get that. I don't have account numbers that I can give you tonight, but that'll be coming your way.
Any other comments? Citizen comments. Rick Watson.
I'm Rick Watson, property owner in Black Mountain. Came and asked a few questions tonight about an affidavit filed December the 30th, 2011 by Carl Bartlett on behalf of the town of Black Mountain. Since you're going to use your little 3-minute hammer there when you don't like what you hear, I'm going to have to cut out half of it. After the last 4 years of complaining about the underhanded taking of my land, some people say they're tired of hearing about it. Well, I believe if you have something to say to someone, you should say it to their face, even if they choose to ignore you and doodle. That's why I'm here again. I thought this was all over until getting sued by Norfolk Southern Railway for a new driveway for Ingalls. I offered to sit down and talk. I offered to negotiate a sale. They wanted neither. So I did what I had to. I stopped them. Most importantly, I thought the town of Black Mountain, you citizens, had agreed to stay out of it until I received from my attorney, Mr. Carl Bartlett's affidavit. It's mostly direct verbiage from the railroad lawsuit, and I'll cut out the malarkey part and just get right to what he says. He says that the town's Planning and Development Services Department has worked closely with representatives of Ingalls in the planning and the expansion of that project. Well, who is this planning board? Because I spoke to Mr. Ames Trine, and The planning board had nothing to do with it. He told me that it wasn't in their jurisdiction. If the town has no jurisdiction, then why is the mayor acting on behalf of the town? On the second part of the affidavit, which is filed in Buncombe County, anybody can read it, it said, based on these considerations, the town of Black Mountain sought and obtained Norfolk Southern's approval of Ingalls grade crossing relocation to the Grovestone Road in US 70, dated the 29th of November, 2011. Who gave you, the mayor, the authority to sign this affidavit on behalf of the town of Black Mountain? There is no you, it's a us. It's my opinion that the mayor acted on his own behalf for the good old boys, put the town smack dab in the middle of my lawsuit. You, the people of Black Mountain, may want to consider what your leaders are doing before they're doing it to you. Behind your back, because it's your tax dollars that's paying for the mayor's lawyer, or is it? Is that what the people elected y'all to do? To spend without accountability? There is no way you two aldermen can justify giving away $750,000 of our tax money in your first 3 hours of service. I'd be ashamed. Mr. Showers, I'd like to thank you for being honest. Is there any questions? I know I ain't gonna have no answers. Shame on you. I'll see you the 18th at your deposition.
Thank you, sir. Teresa Watson.
My name is Teresa Watson. I live at 5 Watson Road in Swannanoa, and we own 2 parcels of land in the town. I'm here to briefly address 2 issues: the mayor's affidavit on behalf of Norfolk Southern and the community development block grant concerning Ingalls. Since the town's official position is that it, and I quote, sought and obtained Norfolk Southern's approval of the Ingalls grade crossing relocation to the Grovestone Road and US Highway 70 intersection, does the town also accept the liability and responsibility for property damage and or possible loss of life should someone be hit by a train at that new crossing? Based on the detailed drawings the town submitted with its grant application on behalf of Ingalls, the town will have a right-of-way across both new entrances. I suppose that's what you think qualifies this as a grant for public infrastructure. Perhaps it also qualifies the town to provide the yearly maintenance and upkeep on both entrances required by Norfolk Southern, and to accept liability for accidents at both new entrances. Interestingly, a letter to Ingalls from Norfolk Southern states that the crossing shall be a private crossing only for the use and convenience of Ingalls, and shall not be or be permitted to become a highway for the use of the public. I think the board needs to clarify what you need a right-of-way for and how you intend to use it. Finally, according to Plat Book 122, page 33, recorded at the Buncombe County Courthouse, Ingalls only owns to the center of the Norfolk Southern Main Line at their eastern entrance. Has anyone checked to see if, in fact, Ingalls can access US Highway 70 across their adjoining property owner or owners to the east? Historically, no one answers any questions presented during the citizen comment portion of your meetings. I don't expect to get any answers here tonight. That's why I plan to contact the Department of Commerce directly with my concerns about this grant application. Just so you know, I find the justification for the grant as benefiting low and moderate income neighborhoods, slum or blighted areas, non-existent. Absolutely nothing qualifies either entrance as public infrastructure. There was no citizen input. You followed very few, if any, of the federal guidelines for your application. And the arrogance with which you operate is alarming. With the exception of Carlos Showers, there was an incredible lack of integrity where this grant application is concerned. Not just with the Board of Aldermen and Mayor, but with the Land of the Sky Regional Council. In closing, I would like to recommend that you put this grant application back on the agenda, that you go back to the beginning, and you follow the specific guidelines set out in the application process, and that you operate openly and honestly with the people who elected you.
Thank you. Caroline Bale.
Hello. This is my first Black Mountain Town meeting, so I'm finding it very interesting, and I apologize if I tried to do some research and understand as much of this as possible. I'm Caroline Bell, and I live at 35 Melissa Drive. I had two concerns based on the agenda from last month. It seems that, and it's about this grant that they were referencing, so it must be a big deal. 2 egresses have always been in the Ingalls expansion plan because of the safety and health risks from ammonia, flooding, and fire. My first concern is that the new warehouse is slated to open this spring, and not only does Ingalls apparently not have the ability to build the necessary egresses, but they're relying on our town to get them grant money so that they can provide a safe evacuation in the event of a catastrophe. I would like to understand why this is happening, because I'm losing confidence in Ingalls. If they can't adhere to the most basic criteria of providing a safe workplace, what other key requirements of the development plan have they let slip? Who is responsible for holding Ingalls accountable? And then the second one, as I was reading through this, I'm assuming that Ingalls needs the grant in order to complete the project, and that there are not other businesses with a greater financial need that would benefit from such a grant. I couldn't find any related information on where any analysis was done regarding why Ingalls is selected for the grant. But anyway, so assuming that they need the grant in order to provide a safe workplace, what's the plan if they don't get the grant? I mean, this is a big deal. This is, I mean, if you read that, there's plumes of ammonia going up, and, you know, people aren't going to be able to get out of the workplace. So if the grant doesn't go through and they're opening in the spring, what's plan B? I mean, I didn't see anything about any backup plans or, you know, what we're going to do in that case. And, you know, I did read a little bit. This is the largest refrigerated building in North Carolina. That's a pretty big deal. And that's pretty important when you're talking about ammonia, you know, being released and people not being able to get out, and yet, and they don't even have the money to do the egresses yet. And they're going to open in the spring. I mean, it needs to go back to the beginning and make sure that all the I's have been dotted and the T's crossed. We're talking about people's lives. I mean, this is not anything to just hope for the best, you know? I'm really concerned, and I hope that you can tell that. I mean, this is not political. And I do think Black Mountain is better than this, better than what I have read in the Black Mountain documentation. So, like her, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. I do think it warrants being put on the agenda, like next month or whenever, so that these concerns are addressed, and we're sure that Ingalls is held accountable for what they need to be doing based on the previous plan, and that we're able to support Ingalls if that's what needs to be done. But it's none of that's very clear to me. So thanks. I'd like to put back on the agenda.
Kathy Robertson.
Kathy Robertson, 109 Briarbrook Road. I've read the documentation provided by the Land to Sky and have done some research on the North Carolina Department of Commerce and the HUD websites. It's pretty obvious, even to a laywoman, from the descriptions and regulations that the Community Development Block Grant Program is intended to assist local communities when community development projects are too big to be financed by the local community alone. The guidelines make clear that a block grant should be made in support of community-oriented and community-directed projects with citizen input and approval. What is described as a lengthy process, widely publicized with ample time for feedback from the community. This is important because the legislation requires that the community put up 1/5 of the money for the project. This means that the local taxpayers must have some stake in the project, and the project must be of sufficient value to the community that the advisory committee is convinced and can convince the taxpayers to pay at least part of the cost. Time for reviewing the application or competing applications is essential to meeting the purpose of this grant. What has happened in this instance is clearly outside the intent of the legislation, as outlined in the requirements, in at least 2 ways. First, the town has no stake in this game. For Black Mountain, it's all found money, benefiting only Ingalls and Land of Sky. It's perfectly legal for a good citizen to give money to the town. It's acceptable for a citizen to give money to the town for a designated purpose, for example, a park. But for a citizen to give money to the town contingent on the town spending that money and a whole lot more taxpayer money on a project of direct and sole benefit to that same citizen, that comes very close to the ethical, if not legal, definition of bribery. Second, of course, is the way the whole grant proposal was rushed through with minimal participation of our community at large. It was close hold among Ingalls, Land of Sky, and the town board until it was presented as a done deal for final vote by the aldermen. I have no doubt that this is not a unique situation, but it's surely far removed from the implied intention of the block grant legislation. I'm hereby requesting 2 things of our board. 1, that the approval of the application from Ingalls be set aside until such time as the town meets all community participation requirements and the Ingalls application can be put through the proper process. 2, I'm requesting that this matter be addressed as an agenda item by each member of our board and by the mayor so that we may question this process, why the process was rushed, and most importantly, why all members of the board, except Mr. Showers, voted to approve this application. Questions about this process need to be answered, not avoided. In closing, I do have one direct question that I actually would like an answer to, and that's for Mr. Sobol. Are you aware that these grants are not loans and are not intended to be repaid? On 2 instances, when that comment was made that they were grants, on 2 separate occasions, I have heard you correct somebody to say that they were indeed loans and not grants.
I was mistaken.
Okay, thank you.
Ruth Brandon.
Did you want Buzz to finish what he was saying?
Buzz signed up.
For his 8
So
minutes?
he wants to sign up again. You know, if I let everybody speak and they come up with 10 items, that means they stay up for 30 minutes? I don't know where he's coming from on that.
Last month, you allowed someone to speak 8 minutes. I didn't know if Buzz was supposed to finish or not. He only spoke 3.
I'm gonna let you, you're on your time already.
If I'm not in his, no, my time will not start until I start speaking. I ask a question.
I got the hammer.
I'm Ruth Brandon, 722 Laurel Avenue. I'm approaching you board members from the angle from which I always operated when I was on the board, and that is being tight-fisted with expenditures by questioning any outrageous proposals. I sat in disbelief last month when I heard Alderman Sobol ask to reopen the golf equipment bid that had been unanimously accepted by the outgoing board just a few minutes earlier for the low bid of $245,000. I had just heard, as did all of you, the Billy Casper golf course presentation and heard the golf maintenance supervisors report on the inventory that's at the golf course now and its age. As I recall, he reported there were 5 or 6 mower blades and a few parts. And even though some of them were interchangeable, they would have to be used on the old machines. So naturally, the quality of the cut would not be as good. And he did not feel, upon questioning, that there was much probability of his being able to sell the old stuff. If some of the old interchangeable parts are put on the old machines, they would probably, after regrinding and sharpening and so on, maybe add another year to the life of those old machines. I was stunned after hearing this report from Billy Casper that Alderman Sobol would make a motion to accept the highest bid of the 3 bids that were submitted to you all at well over $11,000 more than the already adopted low bid, stating that there was more than $10,000. Yes, I said $10,000 in parts and equipment over there. The low bid already accepted, as I said, was $245,000. His proposed bid was of $256,504, again, over $11,000 more. I feel sure that all of you all must have realized this would come out of the Billy Casper operating expenses, or did you care? If I remember correctly, the Billy Casper Group, by contract agreement, would, if the town did not renew its contract, return the equipment in good condition. I would wager that they have surely spent large amounts of money on parts and repairs to bring this into good condition. I was doubly stunned that not one of you questioned that $10,000 inventory figure, even asked Mike where he got that figure. Apparently he reached up into the thin air and got it, because he had just heard the same maintenance supervisor's report that I had heard. You board members need to just be aware that in the future, if a controversial subject comes up, Mike will have received hundreds of telephone calls about it, while the rest of you will have received 2 or 3, or maybe none. So watch out for exaggerations. I challenged you new board members last month to do what you feel is right and not be beholden to anyone. I never was, and I always left the board meeting with the feeling of a job well done. I ask all of you tonight to accept my remarks as constructive criticism. And because some of you are new, I do it in a spirit of urging you to not be afraid to question any statements, outrageous or not. All the while keeping in mind the number of votes that you received in the recent election from voters who believed in you and trusted you to be alert and aware of who is saying what. Especially to you, Don Collins, as a newcomer, I would say that you need to think about the fact that you received twice as many votes as incumbent Sobol, who is making these irresponsible suggestions, such as, again, the over $11,000 higher bid on the golf equipment contract, and or simply because he made a campaign promise. I have one other sentence. A campaign promise, he told you the last meeting to abolish the 20 cents a day per household revenues. Garbage fee, costing the town some $300,000 per year in revenues. Why should you feel obligated to honor his campaign promises? So you got $300,000 a year you're going to lose. You have $150,000 for the next 6 months you're going to use. I just tell you again, the voters trusted you, as they did me for 7 terms, to be good stewards of their tax dollars. Please do not let them down. To thine own self be true. Thank you. And thank you for giving me 2 extra minutes. I appreciate it. I did not use the 8, but I appreciate the extra 2.
You used anything Buzz wanted. Okay, Elaine.
Elaine Lotzenheiser, 410 Avena Road. Thank you to all of you who came and supported the reception held to honor Marcy and for her 3+ years of dedicated service in 60 to 70-hour weeks. This is, though not appreciated or recognized by some here, I'm sorry for those who chose not to come, including the Black Mountain News, but many came, and to those here tonight and those who watched this meeting on TV, you missed a festive and warm occasion. A special thank you to the welcome table for providing the food and the refreshments. And I wonder, my second item is, I wondered if you aldermen realize how disinterested and disconnected most of you appear most of the time when your constituents are up here addressing you on matters of concern to them, even if they're not concerning to you. If you watch the program, you could see how you appear to your viewers. Thank you.
Harry Hamill.
Al, did you get a chance to pass those right if you would, please? Thank you for allowing me to speak, though I was not signed up. I did not realize the rule. Pardon me. Each of you is about to receive a letter that I went home. My wife and I drafted to you as a result of an earlier action that you took this evening. I ask that this letter be put into the record because of the fact that I will read it very quickly. Concerns removal of stop signs on Sutton Avenue and Richardson Avenue. Ladies and gentlemen, when I arrived at your meeting this evening after the sign up for the first citizens' comments had closed, I learned of the consent agenda item G, stop sign at Richardson Boulevard and Sutton Avenue. I clarified with the town's interim public works director what was intended to occur and got some additional background information. When I informed him of the fact that one of the reasons for the stop signs was to slow traffic down at the corner of Sutton Avenue and South Ridgeway Avenue, I told him that I had almost been run over by a vehicle unable to make the turn. As a result, my wife and I had requested a stop sign on Sutton headed east to avert a likely accident. Alderman Sobol has personal knowledge of the danger posed to our property at 151 South Ridgeway Avenue, the Black Mountain Farmers Market, by speeding automobiles headed east on Sutton. Years ago, when the property was owned by his family, a vehicle actually struck the front porch and tore out a column. He also knows of my close escape when a truck ran over the spot where I had been standing a couple of feet onto the shoulder. Were these matters mentioned in the traffic engineer's report? If not, then he failed to do a thorough enough job. I ask for the following actions tonight. One of the aldermen who voted in favor of the consent agenda move reconsideration. 2, an alderman move the elimination of item G, stop sign at Richardson Boulevard and Sutton Avenue, so that the traffic plan for the intersections of Sutton Avenue at Richardson Boulevard and South Ridgeway Avenue may be considered jointly. Otherwise, you are hereby notified that in the event of an accident occurs at the corner of Sutton Avenue and South Richardson Avenue, we will assist any lawsuit against the town for the failure to fulfill its responsibility to act responsibly when notified of an imminent public danger created by its action or actions. Ladies and gentlemen, I was standing beside the road when I heard tires screeching, and I jumped as a result of that, about 5 or 6 feet to my left. The truck ran over the spot that I was standing on while I was in midair. People come around that turn very fast, and that's after a stop sign 1 block away. Thank you.
Thank you. Buzz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be really short. You can pick up your hammer now. According to the regular session agenda that you published, signed by Mr. Richardson, I put 2 topics on my application to speak here. I'm allowed 3 minutes per topic. Closing statements are 3 minutes per person. At least follow your own darn rules. Thank you.
My rules say you're wrong.
Read them.
They're on the front page.
Right here.
Is there a motion, we'll go into closed session? 3 minutes, where are you from?
My name is Richard Hudson, 106 Pleasant Drive Circle, Black Mountain. Honorable Mayor and Board of Aldermen, I'm here today to give you my monthly update as to the conditions at the Black Mountain Golf Club. Although I see no signs of significant life from a maintenance standpoint, the bunkers have been raked a few times and the greens have been blown off a few times. It's my understanding that the greens have not been mowed due to turning in old equipment, now off lease, and not getting timely lease documents signed and back to the leasing company so we can take delivery of the new equipment. I would hope this would get done soon. I understand it's in the works. Number 2, the snack shop is still not open. Billy Casper should be required to open the snack shop immediately. When I've asked the question why it's not open, the answer I get is that we can't make any money this time of year. That's no excuse. Part of managing a golf course is having a snack shop available for its patrons. If making money is a criteria for Billy Casper to open the snack shop, then it will only be open probably from May to October. So we'll be half a year without it. Just like any other business, you got to be open in the bad times just as well as the good times. I would also like to address Alderman Showers. Last month, you called Brent Miller up here to the front, called him on the carpet to ask if the golf course is really as bad as I said it was. I would like to tell you and any others if need be that I don't come up here lightly. I come before you to tell the truth about what I see. I don't do this to make the board or anybody else look bad. I just call it as I see it and let the chips fall where they may. And I get plenty of attaboys from the golfing community. As I said last month, and I reiterate this month, send somebody to talk to Billy Casper about terminating this management agreement. Billy Casper Golf cares not one iota about our facility. They look at every decision on a profit or loss basis, which for the long term is fine, but they're making profit and loss decisions based on short-term things, like what I understand, buying fertilizer, buying grass seed, things like this, not giving John money to do things, because we don't have the money right now. If we're going to improve this thing, then that kind of thinking has got to go by the wayside. The citizens of this town deserve a comprehensive business plan from Billy Casper that is specific, not boilerplate from their website or whatever, to our facility. If they are to continue with this ludicrous business arrangement. Thank you.
You asked for a divorce from Billy Casper.
I know. I want one.
I'd like 2 minutes to talk about community.
5 minutes to 8. Let's say, hurry up. There's a ball game coming on.
I'm Philip Bassassi. I live at 15 Highview Drive. I want to talk about community. Just like I said when you voted down the big box in Town Square. I personally buy from individuals. I use Town Hardware. I love Whitehorse. I use Ruth Higgins. I am fed up with the attitude of this town that if they can buy something cheaper from strangers, it's perfectly okay. The sense of community by the people who are making purchasing decisions in this town stinks. Specifically, I think that when we evaluate bids, we need to look at how much taxes the company that gets the job pays back to the town and add that in. Then we would find probably that the high bidder is actually the low bidder. And I just want to address that. We need more sense of community. For instance, I'm on the Housing Commission. I can't convince the people on the Housing Commission that a house without a sidewalk that requires you to own a car to even get in and out of your driveway is not affordable housing. The cheapest energy conservation measure we can do in this town is to build sidewalks. They also build community. People walking together, talking together are community. People getting in a car and going to a big box store are not community. So that's I could go on, but the underlying thing I'm talking about is, do we have a community or do we have a group of consumers? Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Motion to go in closed session.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.